Hello and welcome back to the Restricted View podcast. Hopefully by now your favourite theatre podcast.
Hi there, I am Deborah.
And I'm Chris.
And today we have a fully packed...
Jam-packed show.
Jam-packed,
that's
what I meant to say.
You have to say it's a jam-packed show.
For you with, another list. We love a bit of a list.
We do. For those of you waiting for another review, just wait, they're coming. Theatres are slowly reopening.
Yes,
so,
not all theatres are open at the moment, so we're going to get to them in time.
But who doesn't love a good list?
Exactly.
Also a tip which is kind of almost a slight industry secret. Not really, but a little bit of a secret in the industry.
It's definitely something that when I found out I was very pleased about. So
which is a tip that will help you throughout all of your theatre visits, hopefully.
Yes. And a discussion on a different type of theatre.
Oh yes, I'd forgotten that that was a discussion.
Didn't you prepare?
I did, but I'd forgotten that it was this week.
Yes.
Cool, awesome. So without any further ado, we're going to go straight into our first section.
So this week's piece of news is the fact that everybody's talking about Jamie's becoming a film. Well, hang on. It's not really news.
But Deborah, that's not news. We've known that for a long time.
Well, exactly, Chris. But the actual news is that the film doesn't seem to be coming out in the cinemas. It's going straight to your TV with Amazon Prime. So everybody's talking about Jamie. It was meant to come out last year in October. And obviously, because of the pandemic and with everything that was happening, the rights were sold to Amazon, and now it's coming out on Amazon Prime, and it's coming out in September this year. It looks like the 17th of September. I'm not sure if this is the case worldwide, but it's definitely the case in the UK. So yeah, I'm very excited. I really enjoy the musical, and I've seen the trailer. The trailer looks great, and I'm looking forward to it.
And for those of you thinking, well, I have my ear to the ground with theatre news, and I knew about this for a little while already. Yeah, well, we keep saying this is not breaking news because we record these podcasts in advance.
Well, it's just a heads up. It's just a heads up.
Heads up and our take on it. Yeah, I mean, is this a good thing that it's going to be? It's slightly surprising because theatres are reopening. Sorry, beg your pardon. Cinemas, in addition to theatres, are reopening.
Yes.
In fact, they already have at time of recording. Certainly in our area, and I'd be perfectly happy to go see this in the cinema. I'm also perfectly happy to watch it at home, but it seems odd that, like, 'cause a lot of these films, like, I don't know, for example, Mulan ended up going straight to Disney Plus because that came out pretty much right at the start of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So it seems weird that now theaters are reopening. Sorry, cinema theaters are reopening. It seems odd timing to me to announce that it's not going to go to cinemas after all. It seems kind of disappointing, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially when other film adaptations of musicals waited so long and are now coming to the cinema. So it does seem a bit odd that this is happening, because we have In the Heights coming to the cinemas, and we have Dear Evan Hansen coming to cinemas as well.
That had a new trailer quite recently.
Yes, it did,
In the Heights. In the Heights, yeah.
Yeah,
they both did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yes. I think In the Heights had a trailer last year.
I think it had another one.
Yeah, because it was meant to come out last year, as far as I know.
Yeah, so they decided to wait.
And those are waiting. And of course, the experience is much. I prefer going to the cinema than watching films at home most of the time. So, especially for these films that I'm looking forward to, I think it would be nice to see it in the cinema. So maybe, maybe they will do some screenings of everybody's talking about Jamie. I gotta hope, I guess.
It's an interesting one, actually, because I know that there's a thing you have to. There's a certain. It's not a very big requirement, but in order to qualify for Oscar nomination, a film has to be shown at a certain number of theaters for a certain amount of time.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Now I think that rule was relaxed last year.
It was indeed. Yes.
For obvious reasons. I'd be surprised if that's maybe it'd be deemed unfair. To not relax it this year
it'll be unfair
because it's been possible as long as one theatre is open, one major theatre is open, you could.
I think it's quite unfair to the global south to do that, considering they're not doing as well with the pandemic and all that.
Well, they could, but all English speaking films will have a very reasonable opportunity to open at a theatre. So you could relax the rule for the foreign film section, for the foreign film category, couldn't you?
Yes, but then what do you do with actors and other categories? Because often they're not nominated.
Let's call a spade a spade. The actors in the foreign film section rarely get a look in. unfortunately.
Well, that's not always the case.
Well,
It should be.
They
more
don't get the
rare
recognition they deserve. Is what what I'm trying to hint at.
Rare. Yes. No,
Exactly.
well, definitely, yeah.
Exactly. What was it? 2010. A female director won the first time.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know. What do you think about the fact that it's on Amazon Prime? I mean, that's fine for us because we have Amazon Prime subscription, which is, in my opinion, very good value because obviously you get all sorts of benefits. But some people hate Amazon.
Yeah, and I can't blame them.
Including, yeah, exactly. It's I'm not saying I'm the biggest fan of them in terms of their dealings, but they are, unfortunately, they're really good value. And there are certain things that you have to have a Prime subscription if you want to see, and it looks like everyone's talking about Jamie's going to be one of them. So if you're anti Amazon, what are you going to do? Are you going to crumble and get a Prime subscription?
I wonder if you'll be allowed to rent it, because sometimes you can buy films separately even if you don't have a Prime subscription, but you do need an Amazon account.
Yeah, you need the account.
You don't need a subscription. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it. The trailer got me really excited. Richard E. Grant as Loco Chanel looks great. I'm very excited to see that.
I haven't seen the trailer yet, but I will watch it.
Have you not?
No, I watched after this podcast recording.
I'll make him.
Cool. All right. So let us know what you guys think. If you head over to the Instagram page for Restricted View, you can please comment on this episode's photo and let us know what you think about everyone's talking about Jamie being exclusive, at least temporarily, for release on Amazon Prime. So on to our From the Cheap Seats... I can't even say that properly. From the Cheap Seats section, which, as Deborah mentioned at the top of the podcast, this week features another list. Because, as we always say, who doesn't love a list?
We definitely love a list.
We know Coco from Mikado loves a list. Just a little theatre reference for you all there. But yes, so this list is a really, really interesting one for me. It's our top 5 shows that got away from us. Somewhat inspired by my mother, who for years and years and years and years lamented that she'd never been able to see the West End production of Martin and she finally saw a production of it directed by Craig Revel Horwood many years later, which is now many years ago, which I really enjoyed as well. And they're also inspired by a couple of shows that have not got away. I think have now not got away from me. But I think number 1 on my list for this would have been Notre Dame de Paris.
Oh yes, always wanted to see that, and we were very lucky to see it a few years back.
Yeah.
When the French production actually came to London to the Coliseum.
For 5 days.
Yes, it was a very, very short run.
5 days and either 6 or 7 performances, and thankfully
yes, but it was beautiful, and it's just one of those shows where the music is just fantastic, and the cast was very good. It was such a big production as well, like really, really big deal to go to that show.
And it just goes to show how many shows there are, how many excellent shows there are available to see, or temporarily, unfortunately, unavailable to see. The fact that I easily could have made probably 15 or 20. Despite the fact that we go to shows all the time, I still have a list as long as my arm of shows that got away from me, unfortunately.
Yeah, and this is not even. I mean, I haven't included a lot of plays on my list. There is a play, but there are lots of plays that I would love to see, but not specific productions necessarily. So those are not on my list right now. But there are definitely lots. Like I mentioned in the previous episode, how much I'm looking forward to seeing A Doll's House when it comes back, and that's definitely one of the shows. Like it's not on my list, but it's definitely a show that I feel like I want to see. I don't want to miss it.
Yeah. But there's a difference between wanting to see something, and feeling like it got away from you.
Yeah, exactly.
You missed the chance. But anyway, without any further ado, I think Deborah's going to kick us off with her number 5.
So my number 5 is a show that I actually have seen performances.
I don't think you understand this list.
No, hang on. I have seen performances of this show. However, I feel like I have not seen a proper, full-on performance of this show yet. And the show is Jesus Christ Superstar.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from.
So we saw a stripped-back production of Jesus Christ Superstar at the open-air theatre in Regent's Park twice now.
I'm not convinced the director would agree with you that it's stripped back.
I'm saying it is.
I think he'd call it his vision. I'd call it not sub-optimally directed, personally.
Well, it almost felt like a concert version.
It couldn't decide what it wanted to be, whether it wanted to be a concert or a stripped back production.
So you see why that's on my list now? I would love to see a big full-on performance of that, because I love that show. I love the music, and I obviously have seen the film. I don't know when that film's from, actually.
So are we saying the original kind of West End Broadway staging got away
Yeah,
from
I
you?
love to see a big staging of it, yes.
Yeah, the original. You've seen the Glenn Carter and Jerome Pradon film. That is basically what the original staging was.
Okay. I guess I just want more. I don't know. Maybe I just feel like I'm missing a sense of occasion of this big kind of staging of a show that could be so big.
Yeah, no, it is. I remember I saw it as a kid, as I think a 7 or 8 year old in the touring production in the Point in Dublin, and we were obviously in the. I think based on the image I have in my head, we were in the circle, and it did look enormous. Obviously I was a kid.
Yeah, and I think because of the theme, it kind of suits a big production in a very strange way. You kind of want it to be larger than life.
Those big Roman, well, actually not Roman, but they're Roman because the Romans were occupying the whole Jerusalem. Those big pillars that go up on the bridge, that goes up and down, that Jesus uses, and that's all very, very impressive.
Yeah, and I can imagine some of the last numbers. You know, what's the King of the Jews, I think. Is that what it's called?
There's no number called King of the Jews. King of the Jews is the lyrics used frequently.
What's the title of that song?
Which song?
The one with the King of the Jews bit. There's a...
With Pilate's talking.
No.
I have no idea which bit you're referring to.
The big one at the end, where he's dead already.
Oh, Jesus Christ Superstar?
Is that Jesus Christ Superstar?
Yeah, and I think King of the Jews is mentioned once in that song. Do you think that song was called King of
the
Jews?
No, I didn't think it was called that. But that's the bit.
The one Judas sings at the very end.
Yes, it is Judas.
The one where they keep saying over and over again, Jesus Christ Superstar.
No, not that one. The one that looks like a talk show. Yeah? There's a big with the tap number and the dancers coming.
Herod's song.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Judas doesn't sing that.
He sings the next one. Yeah.
King Herod sings that one.
Okay. Look, I am lost.
Wow, Deborah really hasn't seen a good production. She doesn't know what she's talking about.
Yeah, so I feel that will lend itself to a very big number. That song. With the dances, with the kind of cabaret dances.
I actually can't think of. I can't picture any live production of Herod's song I've seen. I can't even picture the one from the Regent's Park Open Air Theatre, which is really worrying.
Oh, I remember that one.
How was Herod dressed?
I can't remember how he was dressed. We saw it twice, by the way.
I can picture Rick Mile playing the role in the film, in the newer of the two films. I can't picture the guy from the original film either. Wow. Yeah, they really need to. Yeah, we need to
see. We need a new production of this.
It wasn't very memorable.
There you go. And I do enjoy the music, so I would like to see that done again. I think the music's very clever.
And if you saw and loved that production of Jesus Christ Superstar in the Regent's Open Air Theatre and the Transfer of the Barbican as well,
you did,
and you really enjoyed it, then obviously that's great. But
I did enjoy it. I just thought I was a bit confused about what it was.
Yeah, I didn't. It very poorly used concert microphones.
I think that was a problem.
Because I've seen concert microphones used in Spring Awakening, I've seen them used in Hamilton, and both usages of them was very well thought out.
Yeah. And
meant something. And I felt here it was just like, oh, this song is kind of an aria style song, so I'm going to stand at a concert mic.
I think it was the oddest thing was like when Mary is singing with Jesus, and it's like a duet almost, and they have their faces are very close together, but the microphone is between them, and they each have their holding their microphones. So I thought that was quite jarring.
Yeah, that was weird. Although, funnily enough, this isn't meant to be a review of Jesus Christ.
No, one day maybe.
But funnily enough, the second time we saw it was during social distancing. And they actually implemented social distancing into the performance, and they actually used that in a very creative way. And I thought that, faced with that limitation, the director actually did a much better job of getting his vision on stage.
Yes, I think the second time we saw it, it was the first time we went back to the theatre. It was the open air theatre again last year, when restrictions lifted briefly, and it was just it had. It had some great moments, I think, just kind of nodding to the times we were living in.
Yeah, and that felt like a new production, a new interpretation of it, right?
Very much so.
Whereas the original version of the same production felt like a stilted, underproduced version.
Yes. I see what I agree with what you're saying. Yes, definitely.
So you have seen a unique production of it, but you'd like to see the
a full-on kind of
the OG staging, maybe.
I would like to see that. Yes.
Okay.
So that's my number 5. What's your number 5?
Well, we'll let you get away with that, even though you have seen it. I'm hoping that you haven't seen the next 4 at all.
I haven't.
But good. Okay. Well, so as it was your number 5, we'll let you get. Deborah has. I mean, as anyone else knows, Deborah has a habit of sort of cheating for her number 5 always, and then kind of falling into line for the rest of the list.
I have no defense for this, Your Honor.
Okay, my number 5 is a play. And it's a play that I have never seen whatsoever. But there is also a specific production of it that that I kind of feel I got FOMO. I've FOMO on, basically. It's happened.
Mm-hmm.
I have OMO on it. Which is Waiting for Godot. And I'd love to see any competent production of this whatsoever. I've seen snippets of it performed in various things from workshops to variety acts and whatnot. In fact, one of my I remember when I was in university, 2 guys put on a section of it for, I can't remember exactly why they were putting it on, but it was incredibly funny. It was basically, I mean, Beckett would have hated it, but it was
He would have hated anything that wasn't what he told them to do.
Yeah,
so.
pretty much.
Yeah.
But it was basically they were doing they did it so, because obviously if everyone knows Waiting for Godot, it's a lot of odd stage directions. There's a lot of intent but no action. So it's like I think there's a stage direction like so he comes and he goes or something like that, and I remember this little bit was basically a rehearsal of 2 people trying to do Waiting for Godot, and one of them interpreting all the stuff super literally and like doing a little weird shimmy. And what are you doing? I'm coming and I'm going. Okay.
That sounds great.
It was very funny. I kind of would have liked to see an entire 30 to 60 minute segment of these guys, these 2 students doing this. Unfortunately, it was only about 10 minutes
long. It sounds
long.
like a comedy sketch.
It was a comedy sketch, but with most of the dialogue being directly lifted from Godot.
It sounds like Mischief Theatre does Beckett.
Yeah, it was that kind of thing. It was very clever. They were very good. Dean and Ben, I think their names were. They were very good. Anyway, but yeah, so I've never seen it Godot at all, which is terrible because I love Theatre of the Absurd. I do quite enjoy Beckett. I think Beckett might be my second favourite Theatre of the Absurd playwright. Oh, sorry, my old professor who loved Beckett so much.
Second favourite.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm Waiting for Godot is considered his magnum opus. I can't really comment, I guess, because I have read the script for it, but I've never seen it, so I guess I can't really comment. But I'd love to see it. And the specific production that I feel I missed out on was the Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart production, which I've heard through the grapevine kind of was a bit of a letdown considering the people who were involved. But I try not to take other people's opinions as absolute gospel. Funny thing for a channel that does reviews on to say, but it's true. You should always
make your own mind, I think.
Yeah, you should use these things as guidance, right? I still would love to have seen it. We have been fortunate enough to see Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart working together in No Man's Land.
Yes.
Which is a Pinter play, which we saw in the Wyndham Theatre a few years back.
I would actually love to see that again if possible, because now I have a lot more experience with Pinter.
Yeah.
I think I would have, just enjoyed it more, because So when you don't know what to expect, really, when you go see Theatre of the Absurd, you can be confused. You can get very confusing because it doesn't really make that much sense. Yeah. And I think that's the point of it. But if you're expecting a structured story, you will not have that. So I'd like to see that again now that I've seen a lot of Pinter plays.
Yeah, me too. But I'd like to see any production of Godot. I feel it's a mass. Considering I'm an Irishman who studied theatre in the same university where Samuel Beckett both studied and lectured, I feel it's a very shameful gap in my theatre knowledge and experience to have never seen it.
It's your duty.
Yeah, so Waiting for Godot, my number 5.
That's good. Yeah. So moving on to number 4, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So my number 4 is a play I have FOMO of not having seen because of Chris. Chris is to blame for this. And it's the production of The Lord of the Rings that was put on. I'm not sure where it was.
Drury
but it
Lane.
was in the oh my god, it was actually in the Drury Lane.
Yeah.
So yes, I love Lord of the Rings. I think that's one of I think we bonded over Lord of the Rings as well, other things
Amongst
as well,
other things.
amongst other things. And when he told me that he'd seen the production of Lord of the Rings, I was super jealous of it.
I even have a mug.
Or envious.
I even have a mug from that production.
Yes, I don't use that mug. That's
Do you
your
know?
mug. No,
Oh,
no.
you can use that mug.
No,
if
it's
you want.
fine. It's your mug.
It would
it's
hurt
fine.
too much to use it knowing you hadn't seen it, right?
Yes.
Do you know
yes.
the other funny thing?
Put some on the wound.
The funny thing is the show didn't do very well, and anyone who's listening who saw it, there's a fair chance that they're thinking, you didn't miss much. It was rubbish," which is fine. But and I accept that it definitely had problems and its shortcomings. But my God, that was the most impressive, like, visual feast I've ever. We talked about in a previous list. We talked about how do we phrase it? You know, the visual aspect of a show.
Spectacle.
Yeah, spectacle of a show. Like that was had the highest level of spectacle of any show I've ever seen.
I have seen trailers of that and like little bit of footage from the show, and I mean, look, I really want to go see it. I think it's just a feat to have adapted it to the theater to begin with, considering all that it takes. And like if you watch the films, you know how much work has been put into it, and the films have a lot of hours of footage
And the books
to
have
tell
like
the
100,000
story.
words or something.
And the books are the book, like the Lord of the Rings trilogy is basically a Bible length novel, because it's like three of them,
possibly longer.
So yeah, I would love to have seen that. It feels like it would have been a really magical experience as well in the theater.
Yeah, definitely. And the adapting it into one story was definitely probably the thing that caused them the most problems. And yeah, I kind of think they did it as well as they possibly could have. They made some really smart decisions and some really smart character when you turn two characters into one
Amalgamation.
Amalgamation. I was about to say that, and then I doubted myself. Yeah, they made some really clever character amalgamation, like Denethor and Theoden become one character.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And the Mithril vest doesn't save. There is no. Well, in the book, it's an orc chieftain. In the film, it's a troll. There is no orc chieftain / troll stabbing Frodo in the Mines of Moria. The Mithril vest instead saves him from Shelob, which prevents the entire Cirith Ungol tower and Sam saving Frodo thing.
That makes sense.
I
know.
Clever. Because the important thing is the Mithril vest saves him, right, at some point in the adventure. But you don't actually need. The only reason to go to Cirith Ungol is so that when Aragorn and crew go to the Black Gate, the audience think. Well, not in the film, but in the book, the audience think Frodo's dead at that point.
Yes.
That's the only point of it.
I want to apologize for anyone listening, because I have opened the gates to a flood
to Mordor.
to this flood of information about Lord of the Rings. To this nerd can.
It's a really good adaptation, and yeah, Deborah has no justification for having Fomo on this, because she doesn't know anything about it. Apart from the fact that I've just told her she missed out.
Please listen back to yourself.
No. No. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying apart from me, you've no reason to actually have Fomo on this.
Just I was listening to you now and thinking that maybe it would be a nice topic for discussion. In this podcast, talk about adaptations in general, because I do think that we talk about it in Chris he knows a lot of the Rings, but he also consumes adaptations. I consume a lot of like book to film adaptations, and I think book to theater seems to be becoming more and more common, because we've been seeing quite a lot of that recently, and I think there's definitely room to talk about it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We shall definitely let us know if that's something you'd like to hear about.
Yeah,
but I definitely think it's something that is worth discussing. But yeah, so unfortunately, Lord of the Rings. I feel like I've talked more, and this is your number 4.
You've seen it,
that's true. That's why. There was rumor of a touring production a few years ago, but unfortunately, it seems to have died.
If you know anything about it, if you're working on it, if you are the person listening to this right now, are thinking, oh, maybe I should put this on. Like, if you're a theatre producer, I will buy all your tickets. Put it on so I can see it.
If you sound quite cheaply.
Yes. True. But yeah, I'd love to see it. Hey, look, I even would like to see footage of it. So if there's recording of the show, I would love to see that.
I think there,
because I think I would be satisfied to some extent with the recording of the show that I don't think will ever be put on again. So
well, the visual treats would definitely be underwhelming.
Oh, but I
unless
still would
it was
like to see.
professionally.
I think I have this curiosity of seeing how they adapted the story. I'd love to see how they adapted 3 novels into a play. A slightly longer show, but still. Yeah, so that's my number 4. What's your number 4, Chris?
My number 4 is a musical this time. It's a musical that, frankly, I've had reasonably good opportunities to see, and for some reason just haven't. It's possibly because I'm not the biggest fan usually of its composer. You know who it is.
Drama.
No, I don't. I'm not saying I hate this composer or anything. I'm just saying I'm not. Like, people don't have to be as enamored as the rest of the general public with a particular composer.
Yeah, and sometimes some people can be wrong as well.
I'm sure there's people.
Like Chris.
There's people. We know people who don't think Pinter is a phenomenal playwright. I'm still friends with them. So this is
just only because it's too late now to not be friends with them anymore.
So this is Sweeney Todd.
Nice.
Have you ever seen Sweeney Todd?
I have not.
No. I'd really like to. So I have never seen Sweeney Todd in any form. I've refused to see the film.
I've seen the film, but I don't remember it that well.
So the reason I've refused to see the film was when it came out, I was going to see it, and a friend of mine in the theatre scene told me that they had eliminated the chorus.
Huh.
So there's no chorus, and it was just the principal cast singing. And obviously, as we all know, Johnny Depp can't sing. And I have heard clips of him singing from it, and it is very, very poor. He is putting on he tries to sell the performance, so he tries to sell the performance of the song through through every other aspect of his performance, I guess you'd say, rather than the actual quality of his voice. And I think from what I've seen, he actually, if he had a slightly better voice, he actually would have done quite a good job, I think. And I say that as again, someone who's not a big Johnny Depp fan. But I do actually think he would have been damn good at Sweeney Todd. Huh. It's just he can't. He just Sweeney Todd is quite an operatic musical in many ways. So I've refused to see that. The only person in the main cast I really like in that would be Sacha Baron Cohen.
Is he in that?
He's in quite a minor role.
Oh.
But he's got quite a funny song. We also missed out on the Emma Thompson production.
Yeah.
Which I think only ran for about 2 weeks.
It was a very short production, and I was definitely in Brazil at the time. I think you were with your parents. I'm not sure.
Should have seen it without you.
You should have done, yeah.
But so I've never seen. I've only really. I mean, I've listened to. Over the course of my life, I've probably listened to every song on the soundtrack at one point or another. But ultimately, I'm pretty unfamiliar with the show. I just know some of the songs. Know I really like them. I know. I'm a big fan of the kind of Victorian horror.
Yeah, definitely.
Aesthetic.
Definitely.
And it's just everyone and everyone.
I think it's one of those shows that made its way into popular culture in such an interesting way. And even recently, I was walking down Fleet Street, and I was just like, "Ooh,
that's cool, isn't it?
Don't use the barber here, because you never know." So yeah, it's cool. Yeah. It's definitely a show I want to see too.
But it's one that I'm pretty confident I'll get to see.
Oh yeah, I think they'll put it on again very soon.
But so it's on the list by virtue of how much I want to see it, as opposed to. Like Deborah's number 4, where she's really, really worried she'll never get to see it.
I don't think I will, but hey, what can I do?
One day I think I'll see Sweeney Todd.
Oh yeah, so I think soon, hopefully.
I hope so. That's my number 4.
So number 4, okay. So interestingly enough, that I should have mentioned it straight away. My number 3 is Sweeney Todd. And I actually
weird.
Well, yeah,
that's
I know.
So weird because I surprised myself when I put it on my list.
Yeah, so I've always wanted to see it, and to this day I get upset and I get FOMO about not having seen the Emma Thompson production, because I love Emma Thompson, and I think she does a lot of things, and I can't say everything she does is actually good, but I think she is good in everything she does.
She's good, yeah.
I love her. I think she is just such a brilliant person and character, and she's such a great actress. So yeah, I really wish I'd seen that. I don't even know who played Sweeney Todd in that production. I just know that she played Mrs. Lovett. That's all I know.
It's you purely fangirling.
It's just me being like, I want to see Emma Thompson, and I really do, and I don't think she does a lot of theatre these days. So I'd love to have seen her.
Yeah, are you sad that you didn't see Emma Thompson, or you say you didn't see Sweeney Todd?
Well, both things. I like you said, I think we will get to see Sweeney Todd in the future, like not that far away. I wish I'd seen her as well, as the show. But
I wish I'd seen her too, but I'll be satisfied seeing anything.
Having said that, we'll probably get, so if you get a proper like a West End actor, you'll probably get someone who can sing more than she can. I don't know how well Emma Thompson can sing.
I've never heard her sing. Maybe she's brilliant.
Maybe she is. But yeah, so that's my number 3. Which is a bit boring because you talked about it, but there you go.
Well, it's better to have them come one after the other than you
Yes.
get. It'd be less fortunate if it was your number 1, and then we were like, oh, we've talked about this.
Yeah,
which could still happen.
it could still happen.
So my number 3 is this is probably this is the first show I think that came to mind when I thought of a show that got away from me. And there is we have a chance to rectify this in the not too distant future.
Oh yeah.
And this is because I've been told how excellent the stage version of this show is, and that is Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, that nearly made my list. I don't know. I don't know why it's not on my list, but it's number. Let's say it's number 6. I do want to see it very much, and yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I know that. I mean, I like Beauty and the Beast, the film, like most people.
Mm-hmm.
I like the music from it, like most people. I know that the stage version has all of the original songs. I think there's 8 of them, plus an additional song that was cut from the film, and then it also has several brand newly written works. I know that Tim Rice assisted with the lyrics on new songs as well.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and so it's. I mean, so it's funny because Beauty and the Beast, like I said, I enjoy it. I'm not obsessed or anything. The film, and generally speaking, I'm not the biggest fan of Disney's stage versions.
Mm-hmm.
Like I enjoy them.
I think we talked about this before as well.
Yeah, it's like Lion King. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
Most people love it. Aladdin, I enjoyed it, but again, a load of people loved it.
Yeah.
I find that Disney shows are always good. They're always good for good for getting your money's worth, good for a night out. But I feel that they seem to just work better in film for whatever reason.
Yeah, I was actually thinking now that we got to see when we went to Disney World in Florida. We actually got to see, so they do lots of little snippets of shows. Or little kind of adapted, abridged versions of their shows, and Beauty and the Beast is one of them. I actually really enjoy those experiences, especially because you're in like a 40-degree heat, so you get a little break from it. But also just nice to have that stage experience with those actors who work there, the cast members. But yeah, I would love to see that on stage.
Yeah, and I've heard that Beauty and the Beast is the one that translated best to the stage.
Yeah. So there's rumor of a touring production, isn't there?
It's not even rumor. It's happening as far as I know. It was actually going to happen last year, I think, and it got delayed. So currently it's a tour basically that's going to start in Bristol on the 25th of August to the 18th of September.
Okay.
It's then moving to the Liverpool Empire from 23rd of September to 16th of October. It's then going to Edinburgh. From 21st of October to 27th of November, Cardiff from the 9th of December to the 15th of January, and finally it's going to Dublin to go to the Grand Canal Theatre, not the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre, and it's going to go there in November from
November 2022.
2022.
Oh
yeah.
wow!
So this is it's opening at the end. Well, not the end. Sorry, it's opening summer this year here. I guess we're London based. I guess Bristol's our best shot.
Yeah, but I was just now thinking that we should gather our Dublin friends and take them all to the theatre when they go over.
Yeah, so it's we're going to have to make the effort and travel somewhere, be it Bristol or Dublin, to go see that.
Yeah, I assume that if it's successful, it has the potential of continuing and expanding its venues and maybe even coming to the West End. I don't know, because that does happen to tour sometimes.
Sometimes. I mean, this has already been in the West End.
Yeah.
I think it would have to be very successful for it to. I think it's unlikely this will come to the West End.
Yeah, well.
But yeah, I'm really excited to see it, and I'm very pleased that it looks like it's going to happen.
Yes, cool. I had no idea it was actually booking, but it's interesting.
Yeah,
that it's
we can literally buy tickets for it right now. Maybe.
So if you want to go see Beauty and the Beast in one of those places Chris mentioned, get booking. I think you have ATG tickets open there, and I can see that. I can see that they are booking, but I'm sure you can find other websites booking as well.
You can book through the venue or book through Disney. I'd recommend booking through the venue.
Disney are pretty good though with refunds and all that. We would know. So okay, number 2. Is that it?
Number 2.
Oh my goodness, we're getting there. My number 2 has already been mentioned by Chris, because this seems to be a trend. Even when I start the list, even when I start the list, he talks about my picks, but that's okay. My number two
Godot, isn't it?
Is Godot. Is Waiting for Godot, and same as you, the production with Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart. I think I would get so smug if I'd seen that production, because I got pretty smug when we saw them in the Pinter play. So I think if I saw Waiting for Godot, I would have been very excited. I have read the script for Waiting for Godot, because I wanted to know what it was all about. Because again, it's just one of those plays that even if you don't really know, theatre that much, you will have heard of it, and I think you have some knowledge of the play, of the fact that they're waiting for something and nothing ever happens. Or does it? I don't know.
Spoilers.
I don't. Is it The Simpsons who made fun of it, or maybe Family Guy?
Everyone's made. It's in popular culture. Right?
It is in popular culture, very much so. And yeah, I would just love to see it. I think that you can read scripts, but it's not the same thing. So.
No, and that's a topic we might again talk further about in a future episode.
Yeah.
Or
we might have talked about it already. Who knows? Who knows when this is going up?
But yeah, so it's what was I gonna say? For those of you who want a little what's the word? Nice fun fact. That's the word. Fun fact about Waiting for Godot. There is speculation that the name Godot comes from the Irish Godot, which means forever.
My mind is blown right now. I don't know what to say.
If you want another fun fact, it's pronounced Godot and not Godot, as some of our American friends like to pronounce it. It's Godot. And one more fun fact, which I always really appreciated, was that Samuel Beckett once said in an interview, "No, if I'd meant God, I'd have said God."
Well, unfortunately for Beckett...
it's not a metaphor for God, everybody.
Unfortunately for Beckett, he's dead now. So we can do whatever we want with the play.
That's not true. The Beckett estate still sues people who put on the wrong versions of the performances.
How long can they do that for?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. It might be over by now.
Yeah, so Waiting for Godot is my number 2.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah.
What's your number 2, Chris?
My number 2 is a musical, which I've never seen.
Oh.
And I'm very sad that I quite possibly never will see it unless I go to extreme effort and get lucky, or get very, very, very lucky. So I either need to get lucky and then go to a large effort to execute that luck, or get enormously lucky.
Okay.
It is Death Note the musical.
I forgot about it.
I'm so devastated that this never came to pass. So Death Note the musical started life as a concept album with music written by Frank Wildhorn, whose name you might recognise from Dracula the musical.
There's a Dracula the musical?
There is. I've told you about this before. It's got some good numbers. I've never seen it either, but it's not on my list. Because this definitely beats it in terms of how much I want to see it. So I love Death Note. It's a fantastic story. I've read the manga, I've seen the anime, I've seen the Korean TV adaptation, I've seen the Japanese live action adaptation, I've seen the rubbish Netflix English adaptation. It's just I really love that story. It really resonates with me. And when I heard there was a musical, I was so excited. Found out with the concept album, listened to the concept album. It has Jeremy Jordan playing Light in it. And he's really, really good at it.
Oh, he's such a brilliant singer.
Yeah, he
love
really
Jeremy
is.
Jordan.
And I mean, he's far too old to play Light in a stage production. Apparently that was the proposed cast.
You say that. I mean, Ben Platt is playing Evan Hansen. He played Evan Hansen on stage, and now he's playing him in film as well.
Yeah,
and he's nearly 30 now.
And he looks okay in the trailer. He doesn't look too old in the trailer. It's fine. Okay, well, fair enough. But anyway, and then it ended up being adapted. So it ended up being basically poo-pooed on by the media before it ever became a thing, and it unfortunately kind of seemed to kill it dead as an English show. But then the Japanese audiences were much more receptive toward it. And it got translated in Japanese and performed there. So it's very funny if you look if you're one of these people, then you're about to get called out. I'm afraid it's very amusing to look at YouTube videos of the English songs being performed, because it is full of comments know-it-alls saying, "Oh, the original Japanese lyrics were so much better. It really doesn't make sense in the English. Oh, the original Japanese is so much better."
Wasn't it written in
English? It was written in English and then translated into Japanese.
I think this is a problem that shows like Notre Dame as well encounters, that people complain about the translation.
Well, at least that
English.
was written into at least they're
French.
correct in that one that was originally written in French.
But look, I have very basic French, right? And
she's being modest. She's not fluent in French, but she's pretty good. Her Deborah's ability to read French is actually
I can
very
read
good.
it. I can't speak it, and I can't really understand spoken French. However,
She can.
I can't really, no. But anyway, this is not about my language ability. It's just about the fact that I think the English translation does a great job of for what it is. You know, like you can't. It's they have to translate. You're not only translating the words, you're also translating it into music.
Yeah.
It's translating poetry, but even harder because you have to do it to a beat, to a song. So I think people are just, I don't know what they're expecting, but you know, I think it does a great job for what it is.
Yeah, it's just particularly funny in the Death Note case because they're literally wrong, and it just demonstrates that people say that without actually thinking it. They just think, oh, the correct opinion to have is to think the original language is better, so I'm going to poo-poo on the English language one.
Yeah, especially considering that a lot of these people don't even read books in translation, so...
translation's a whole field, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, look, so enough of calling out YouTube commenters.
You could spend a whole day here doing that.
But yeah, it's man, the soundtrack is an alt rock fans wet dream. It's fantastic. It's absolutely. I think I genuinely love most of the songs.
Yeah, I've listened to some of the music and it's pretty good.
Some of them are really catchy. You should listen to it properly, listen through the
Yeah,
album.
I'll give it a go. Yeah,
and also so there's actually, unfortunately, there is a full version of the. I think it's a Japanese production, wasn't it, or was it the Korean? Yeah, it was Japanese production because the Korean one was a Kwan Ho sang, and it's one of my. Is that his name? Kwan? It's Kwan Ho. I need to double check. I'm not butchering his name. Well, I probably am, but I need to double check. I'm not literally giving you the wrong name. He's the wonderful Korean singer Kwang Ho Hong, not sang Hong. Kwang Ho Hong played in the Korean version, and I loved that guy's voice, and he played Tui in the production of Miss Saigon we saw, but we got the understudy.
That was him.
And
yeah.
I remember at the time thinking, oh, the understudy for Tui, oh, that doesn't matter too much. And then I remember when I found out how much I loved Kwang Ho Hong. I remember I fished out our Miss Saigon
program
because I was like, I think it was years ago. I was like, I think we saw the understudy, didn't we? But I found out he played it, and I found it. Sure enough, there in the center was the slip saying tonight the role of Tui will be played by, I can't remember, some other gentleman. But yeah, so another one of my ambitions in life is to hear Kwang Ho Hong sing anything live. He's got an amazing voice. If you Google Kwang Ho Hong Hurricane.
That is a good song.
One of the best vocal performances you'll ever hear. But yeah, sorry.
That's big compliments coming from Chris.
Mad tangents. Well, look, it is a studio recording. I've also heard him sing it live, and it's fantastic, but it's not as good as the studio recording,
right?
Obviously, but it's so good. But yeah, so it is Japanese. So all that for me to realize, yes, it's a Japanese production because it's not him in it. The Japanese production has been professionally filmed and it's on YouTube.
All right.
So
have you seen it?
I've seen it, yeah, and it's really good. And it's a really good adaptation of the story, a bit like we were talking about with Lord of the Rings. It's kind of almost a lesson in why the Netflix version was so bad.
Yeah.
And if you could put them side by side, whereas this one keeps all the key events that matter. It keeps the spirit of it. It kind of accelerates stuff, obviously, but it really nails down on the whole. The story is basically essentially about a serial killer but a serial killer with a kind of a self-proclaimed holy mission. And the detective trying to catch him, and the something in the original that really is a really slow burn is the fact that the detective and the killer are kind of two sides of the same coin, and very similar people, and kind of their morals are actually kind of the same, and that they really really drill that home a lot. Like from the beginning in the musical, the detective character is much more blatant in his in the fact that he's kind of this, he's the opposite.
They're
opposite but the same.
Mm-hmm.
And also
they're the other.
And the ending manages to be quite kind of in a weird way more satisfying than the original ending.
Oh, really?
In a way, yeah. Feels a little rushed because, in a way, and look, like I said, the Lord of the Rings did a fantastic job of adapting it, but also that's going to be where a lot of its problems come from because it was really hard to do. And same thing, this was a 12-book manga.
Yeah.
So same thing, right? It's fantastic adaptation, but some of its problems do come from its adaptation.
Okay, I want to see it now. I will look for it and look out for it.
So
it sounds very interesting, especially the if it's on YouTube. I'd love to see the Japanese version.
Yeah, and it was put back up in Japan. I think it was meant to be the start of 2021.
That's nice.
But then I think it got postponed. I don't know if it's been postponed or cancelled, and I was considering trying to get to Japan. At that
really?
time. Yeah, but so basically, I either needed to go up in Asia, and then and then go
scavenge.
to it, or be crazy looking for it to go up here.
Maybe it'll come over. You never know. You never know. There are lots of small theaters. Maybe you'll see it put on somewhere.
Yeah.
But do you think it needs a small theater? It needs a big theater? Sorry.
No. I mean, it depends. I imagine it'll be restaged if it came over here.
Yeah.
But the Japanese staging is perfectly good, but it's nothing that you can do in a small theater.
That's fair enough then. We can hope. We can hold on to hope.
So, Paul, I think I'm sorry I took so long on that one, but I was very excited.
That's okay.
What's your number one, Deborah?
So my number one, I assume you know, because we've talked about it so much, and I do listen to the songs from this show sometimes. I really, really, really want to see this show performed, and it's Spring Awakening.
Oh! Okay.
Yeah, that's my number one. Obviously, you would have loved to see Jonathan Groff originating the role. But I'm happy with whoever they give me. I'd love to see Spring Awakening. I remember first hearing of this show by a professor at university. She's German.
Makes sense.
But she had no good things to say about it. We were studying Henry James, and Henry James writes about he wrote at the end of the 19th century, and he wrote about all these kind of repressed sexuality and how it was and how it appeared, how it kind of wasn't repressed properly. There's always it always escapes, right? And she kind of just made a passing remark on how Spring Awakening tried to deal with that subject and failed. And then I went after it and I was like, I don't think it failed. But obviously I didn't tell her. But yeah, so I would like to see that.
It's funny
she's not German, she's Austrian, but that's fine.
She speaks German, so she can she could experience the Spring Awakening play in its original language.
Yes.
Was she talking about the play or the musical though? Because the musical is based on a play.
I think she was talking about the musical. Maybe she was kind of saying how it didn't work. How the play works better than the musical.
Do you know what's really
funny?
But
look, she's a very highbrow person, and maybe that's what it was.
Something that's very funny is I've never really stopped to think about if it succeeds in addressing its subject matter so well or not, because I just really enjoy the music from it. It's a fun show. It doesn't just deal with repressed sexuality and whatnot. It also deals with just kind of being a teenager and suicidal thoughts and the stuff like that, and there's abuse, a topic of abuse in it. I
think those are all current topics, but current topics for the end of the century, end of 19th century, and there are a lot of people kind of talking about it in different ways. So maybe that's what she means, and maybe that she thinks that the musical wasn't a good version of it. I'm not quite sure what she said. I just remember hearing it in passing. She didn't even go into it, but I looked for it then afterwards, and I really like the music. And the original
production used as an example of using microphones really interestingly. So they only used the microphones for, I think they possibly used them for most, if not all, of the songs. But the point is that the songs take place in an alt reality in their heads, I guess. And it kind of represents their angst and their in their.
You're shouting. It's
they're
loud,
shouting
right?
inside, right? In their heads, and there's anachronistic references in the songs. Like one of the songs, Hanshin sings, "I go up to my room, turn the stereo on." And obviously there's no stereos when it's based.
Yeah.
But when they sing, they become modern teenagers, and so they were able to express sexuality. They were able to do these things.
Yeah, I think that I think
very
that
clever.
works. I think that works. And from the clips I've seen a few clips from the Tonys, I think, and bits of staging.
Yeah,
from it.
that has one of the best examples of it, which is in the classroom where
Yeah, so
the older students are still writing on their whiteboard or their blackboard. Sorry.
And then he
with their
stands up and
he sings, and then when they all join, they also whip out microphones from their jackets.
yeah, because they're all feeling all those feelings, right? It's very strange because I think maybe I'm completely wrong. Lin-Manuel Miranda, if you're listening to this, do correct me. But sometimes I think there's some similarities between Spring Awakening and Hamilton. Maybe on the staging, I haven't even seen Spring Awakening. But I think there's some nods in the way Hamilton also uses very modern music to tell an old story. In the use of microphones, and so I think there's some nods to it, and we know that Lynn, my friend Lynn, we know Lynn used he references lots of musicals in Hamilton.
Yeah, it's a lot of references. Yeah.
Some of them I'm sure we haven't found yet, but I wonder if Spring Awakening is one of them, because I think there's some. I don't know why. I think they're kind of like, even in the camaraderie between the founding fathers and all that, and how they kind of work around each other, and all the rapping, which is very modern, to tell this kind of 18th century story. So I don't know. I think there's some similarity there. But yes, I would love to see Spring Awakening. Please, someone put it on.
I think you'll see it.
I hope so.
Maybe not as soon as Sweeney Todd, but I think you'll get to see it at some point.
Yeah, I hope so.
Cool. All right, exciting. Well, my number one is a play, which I can see Deborah looking at.
I can't read your handwriting, so it doesn't matter.
Good. This is one that I should have seen by now if the world was fair.
It isn't.
But I think I'm going to get to see. I think they are going to put that production on. It's The Pillow Man.
Oh.
By Martin McDonagh.
I remember you talking about it.
Yeah. So again, this is kind of a bit like Waiting for Godot actually. And I remember one of my colleagues at university putting on an abridged version of it for one of his projects, and it was really good. It was really good, even though it was like, it was like there was no budget for this, what he did. The actors were whoever he could find available. Obviously, in a theatre department, so everyone was capable. But it was like very. But the point is, it wasn't. There was no money there was inadequate time behind it, and he did a really. He's a talented guy, and he just put on a great production of it, and it was it basically is like a demo for something, and I'm desperate to see it. It's basically the story. It's by Martin McDonagh, who you may know in the theatre world from most recently a very 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 dark matter.
Yeah.
If you're a movie fan, you might also know him from 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Didn't he do the Lieutenant of Inishmore? No. Was it him, or was it his relative? Someone else, some other McDonagh.
His relative Michael McDonagh did. Michael McDonagh does films as well, doesn't he? I don't think Michael does.
No, but Martin McDonagh, I think, did Lieutenant of Inishmore that we didn't get to see.
He did, yeah.
Yes.
He did, I think.
With Boldark. No, sorry, Aidan Turner.
And he's in the Cripple of Inish Man. That's another famous one of his. He's done a lot of cool stuff anyway. And he and the 3 Billboards is an amazing movie. But it's the story basically. It's I guess it's a dystopian future, and this writers. It's kind of about writing in a way. It's writers writing about writing.
Don't we love that?
It's an author called Couturian. I think that's his name, something like that. Him and his brother, his brother Michael, and Michael's mentally disadvantaged. They're being held by the state police, I guess, whose names are Ariel and something else. I can't remember the guy's name. And they're interrogating them on basically because a bunch of murders have happened, which resemble murders in stories.
Oh.
By Couturian, and I won't go into any more detail, but basically Couturian's stories are inspired by their childhood, and there's a big reveal about some stuff that was going on when they were kids, and
don't tell us.
and the impact it had on his stories,
that
and it's about the creative process, kind of. It's kind of about art in the same way that Red's about art, I think.
Yeah, I'd like to see that
but with a much more elaborate and fantastical not as in fantasy, but much more like Red is a kind of a version.
Very grounded.
Yeah, it's very grounded. Yeah, it's slightly less grounded. But yeah, I'm so excited to see it, and it was meant to be put on, as I say, last year in London. And
Yes, they were selling tickets for it and everything.
They
I
were,
think,
yeah. So hopefully, I think it's coming. I think they are still planning to put it on.
Let's hope so.
So yeah, that's my number 5. That's my number 1, The Pillow Man.
Yeah, so that's our list. It's a short list, but we've been rambling on about it for ages.
We got a few sidetracked a few times.
We did, but I think that's what happens when we talk about musicals and plays
we
and
love
things that
talking
we
about
want
theatre.
to say.
That's why we're here.
Exactly. So yeah, let us know. Send us an email about it. You can comment on Instagram, wherever you can find us. Let us know which ones are the shows that got away from you.
So now on to our tip for the week. And this is a tip, as we said earlier, that encompasses all theatres, all performances, at least in London. I'm assuming it's the same elsewhere. And anytime you go to the theatre in the future, if you didn't know this, you'll be glad you know this, especially if you suffer from any kind of mobility impairment or anything that slows you down.
Or you like to drink lots of water like me. So during the interval, when everyone gets up to go to the toilet, because you have to, sometimes we tend to despair a little bit when we look at the queue, because the queues can get quite long to go to the toilet. However, if you do that, obviously, don't take the piss. Don't just go and do other things and then go to the toilet. But if you are going to the toilet and you worry about the fact that the performance will start without you, rest assured, it will not. The ushers are often aware of the toilet queues, and they only give the all clear to whoever is backstage, allowing the show to start once no one else is in the toilet. So that's our tip for today. It's short and sweet, but it's very useful to know.
The second act will not start without you, as long as you're not literally, having a snooze in the toilet.
That could happen.
You don't need to do what my mum always used to do, which is when she went to a show she knew where the closing number was, she would basically 10 seconds before the curtain, she knew the curtain was about to come down, she'd already be halfway up to the toilet.
So you do often have time, and that's why sometimes the interval lasts a little longer, I think, as people are queuing. And we know theatres in London are old theatres, and often they don't have a lot of cubicles. So
yeah. And it doesn't look like any theatre took the opportunity of being closed in the pandemic to build some more toilets.
We'll have to see. And today for our discussion point in our far too many notes section, we are going to talk about immersive theatre.
Indeed.
We don't have a lot of experience with immersive theatre. It's something we started to go to a few years ago, I think, but we just haven't had really the opportunity to go to more shows.
Yeah, it's funny. It's when I think about it, though, when I was actually kind of trying to work out all the shows we've been to, from immersive theatre shows, immersive theatre shows we've been to, we've been to like, I don't know, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, there aren't very many about. They're not put on very often.
No.
So in the grand scheme of things, percentage-wise, we've probably seen a decent representation.
Yeah, and this is mainly shows that are really kind of like immersive, as in we take part in the action. Very I think are kind of more part of it, because I think some other shows are kind of marketed as immersive theatre, and it's mainly like, oh, you're part of, like, you're sitting on the stage. Like, yeah, it's not quite the same thing. I mean, yes, it's more immersive, I guess, for you. But when we talk about immersive theatre, I guess here and in this particular discussion, we're kind of really talking about the ones that, the ones you dress up for.
Ultimately, you want to be cast in it, essentially.
Yeah.
As an extra, don't get me wrong. But
but
you
so.
want it. But you want your presence. You're not invisible to the characters, basically. And the best ones, the characters will engage with you.
Yes.
So just to give you a glimpse in the ones we've seen, we've seen off the top, we've seen a production of Alice in Wonderland.
Oh yes,
which
in
the vault, which is probably a good example of what Deborah's going to talk about, where it's not fully immersive. We were addressed at times, we were cast in a way, but at the same time, there was a lot of just standing around and stuff happens. And we might as well have been sat in a seat watching it happen.
I think there was a mix. I think that show. There was a lot of exposition. Let's say there was a lot of the
Yeah.
actors doing the work, but we were also invited to take part, and that was fun. And I think if
And there were some really fun elements.
Yes.
Like when we at one point you're split into groups, and at one point we ended up spying on the other group.
yeah,
And it made me think, oh, were they spying on us earlier on then and stuff?
Yeah.
But that's cool, but it doesn't really impact the story at all.
no, but I
Like,
think the
I
idea
don't-
is that you'll have a different experience from the other group.
Yeah, but but that's nothing to do with the plot.
I guess not.
That just gives it replay value.
That's true.
And also, I think that's one that also kind of demonstrated some of the potential weaknesses of immersive theatre, because of its because it's obviously highly fantastical, and we had bizarre characters like playing cards and the mock turtle and stuff. And when you're really close to them and interacting with them, sort of, it kind of, it allows for that. It allows the suspension of disbelief to be broken, because you can literally see the makeup on their faces.
Yeah, no, I see.
Trying to make them green.
I understand what you mean, which is not a problem. I think we found with the other experiences we had, because they weren't fantasy.
Yeah, I think
and maybe
that's
they
what I'm trying to
benefited
say.
from it, yes.
That's what I'm trying to say. I think if you try to go too down that fantastic route in immersive theatre, you're going to struggle a little bit, because it's going to be hard to. I mean, because like if you see Cats or Starlight Express, I'm totally cool with accepting that they're cats and they're trains, because you're far away from them, and there's this established that's the suspension of disbelief you established for that stage.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a train is in that stage, and that's what a cat is in that stage. Also, they do look damn good. They're very well designed. But then if you're going to put me on that stage and dress me and have me and say I'm here, and I guess I'm looking down, I guess I'm a human.
Yeah, if there's no
What are you-
fourth wall, then does it work?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
if I'm standing next to, for example, a cat
Yeah,
who's now a man-sized, I'm like, well, now you're a man-sized cat.
yeah, and you don't really have fur.
Yeah, and it's like,
No,
and that's-
I totally
and
understand that,
like
yeah.
you can say, well, you're just not being fun enough, but that's how human brains work, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I do think immersive theatre, as a result, is much better suited to things that you can immerse yourself in without having to suspend your disbelief that much. Because that's kind of the whole point of immersive theatre. You kind of don't have to suspend your disbelief.
Yeah.
You actually don't have to do that job. Instead, you can immerse yourself.
That's true. And it's look, when we were talking about this discussion, I actually suggested to call it immersive theatre for introverts,
Yeah.
because I was a bit reluctant to go to immersive theatre productions. Alice in Wonderland was an easy start, I think, especially because you can stand back very much. You don't really have to take part. But then we were very lucky to experience 1940 for King and Country, 1940, and then later on 1944, which
Which is its sequel.
which is the sequel. But obviously you don't have to have seen the first one. It does help if you have, though.
It helps with, yeah, it really
It
helps.
Oh yeah, it does help with
There's
the
one,
review and
okay,
everything.
you don't need to, but there is one bit towards the end where you really want to have seen the first one.
Yeah, and for that, obviously, it's set in the 40s during the Second World War. We did dress up a little bit. You don't have to go all out, but you can, and you are very much part of the story. You were given jobs to do. You make calls, and you write speeches, and you vote.
Yeah,
so there's
so
a
not-
lot of things happening that depend on how your group does it. Obviously, I'm sure they have their script they're following, and they have the structure of the story already. But because obviously the actors are then dressed with clothes we're more used to seeing people dress as, it doesn't feel as kind of strange, I guess, to see someone just dressed in 1940s clothes.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you and I in that one in particular had very high profile roles. So to
Especially
speak.
you, Prime Minister.
I was the Prime Minister, and you were the Home Secretary,
Home
weren't
Secretary, yes.
you? Which is pretty important
That's
for
for
a
the
war.
second one. I can't remember where I did the first one.
The
but
first
yeah.
one had not as much stuff like that going on, but
Yeah.
but so I'm so you wouldn't necessarily. There were plenty of people obviously who didn't have roles as prominent, but they were still like people were super into it. I think we had a really good group for that because we.
Yeah.
I remember at one point there's a. This isn't a spoiler because this may or may not even be true. But at one point, two guys came up to me completely randomly. I went, Prime Minister, I think the barmaid's a spy. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? It was amazing.
And what I really like about those...
And the barmaid was an actor as well, actually.
What I really like about those, and those two specifically, and shout out to the people doing them, and I think some of the actors kind of came back for
most
the
of them
second
did,
one.
yeah.
was the fact that you could take a more active role, but you also could just like sit back and not, I mean sit back, there weren't really seats, but you could just kind of take,
be for the parliament, for the fake parliament
section. You could be in the background and kind of just following things and kind of just hovering. So that was good, and I also think the actors were very good at telling if you're willing to take part, which is essential for this type of show. So even for me, I'm very shy, and I think I kind of I would have thought of myself as someone who would have preferred to stand back. But weirdly enough, when you kind of do your hair with victory rolls and you put on a different dress, you're like, oh, I can take part in this, and maybe that's part of it, that you kind of feel more confident to do this.
Yeah, because we were being called upon to make decisions. At one point I was because there were little mini games you play. Essentially mini games.
There's even a kind of escape room element to it.
Yeah, and you're given a team, right? So I was kind of given my team, and you were given your team, and then you had your own little game to work out, and you have to work out which person should we try and go rescue, which facility should we attack, stuff like that. And I'm assuming that has minor impacts in the story, maybe not, but you feel like it has impacts in the story.
Yeah.
That's what actually matters. Is that you think.
And they have conflab, so then everyone comes back to the center, and we talk about what's happened, so you know what the story is for the other groups.
Yes, you all kind of relay the information, and the people who are on your team, even though you're the main person that's in that area, they're still able to, as I say, take a slightly more backseat role, but they're also able to be fully involved in that game if they want to be.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
But then I remember at one point I was randomly told, I was randomly called over for a phone call, and so no one else knew what this phone call was apart from me, and I was able to lie about what was. But one of the cast members basically came over and said, "Should we tell what it was about?" And or not. So there's an element of I could withhold that information from the entire room, and I don't even know if that mattered or not. But I felt like it mattered, because what it was basically I was basically being asked for permission to torture someone.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Prime ministerial permission to torture a prisoner of war for information, and then I think it mattered for one of the operations later. And whether or not we had the information or not. I forgot how much I enjoyed it.
That was so much fun, and I really hope that they do something like that again. I think this group of people, this theatre production, they're just very good at putting on these shows. The fact that it was like in a basement kind of felt bunkery.
The idea was we were the lucky people who'd gotten out of London, who'd been saved, right?
Yeah. During bombing, so you hear noises as well, and you hear sounds, so just really, really great. And the other show we actually originally saw it in the same place at the Collab Factory in somewhere East London, I think, was The Great Gatsby. And you probably know by now that I love literature, and I was very, very looking forward to experiencing that. I had no idea how it was going to work, but I did really enjoy dressing like a flapper and going on the tube dressed up. That was just always good fun.
We put a little bit more effort into the costumes for this because it's a bit more specific than 1940s, isn't it?
And I really thought that it worked. I don't know how you felt about it because you didn't know the original story, but I do think you get a good glimpse of the story, and the groups are divided, and each group goes with a character. And so, for example, for us, we had this really unique experience of going into Gatsby's room with him, and it was just us and like 3 other people.
Yeah, it was literally 5 of us.
And we heard him kind of like pouring his heart out to us about his love for Daisy. So it was such good fun. We danced the Charleston, and we had old fashions, and it was just
the thing.
Great fun,
there's a bar, right, and the bar, and everything, and there's dancing. And at one point, I remember the characters. There's kind of like controlled sections where a story happens in front of you all, but you're all there. It's like the story. It's like a scene at a party, right? It's like
someone starts a fight at a party, and
you all turn around with your old fashions and watch it. And then there's other bits where you're kind of divided into rooms. It's kind of like, hey, you guys come here with me. I want to show you something.
Yeah.
And you all split up a little bit for more private moments, which means that you're not all seeing everything, which is good and bad. But then there's also just kind of really there's moments where it almost breaks where you're you're just sitting around having your drink, whatever, and characters just wandering around doing that as well. So you might have a random conversation with one of the characters, which was really fun. The jerk character, I can't remember, the villainish character,
Buchanan.
He started talking to us at one point, and he started. Then his partner started. I can't remember his girlfriend started
Daisy, his wife.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
She was being critical of him, and then he was like, "I'm trying to have a nice conversation with these people." It's like you're embarrassing me in front of my friends.
Yeah, but you don't have to. And this is, I think, what I wanted to talk about, especially in this section, is that you don't have to really leave your comfort zone. It does. I mean, you do just to a certain extent, but you don't really have to. And I think if you are more kind of tending towards the kind of timid and shy, I would still recommend that you go to an immersive theatre show if you have the opportunity. I think Great Gatsby, it's currently not booking, but I believe it has a house in London. And it will be back. If I were a betting woman, I'd say it will be back very soon. And I highly recommend it, because you can experience the story the way you want to. So you can take part in it more actively, and be more actively present, and be taught how to dance to Charleston by one of the actors. But you could also just, again, as we said, take a back seat and enjoy it from afar.
One thing I would say is, you mentioned, I didn't know the story beforehand. You hadn't told me the full story, but you'd given me a bit of a prompt, right? A prompter. I do think, I don't know if you'd get the full story experience. Because it's first of all, it's just a bit hard to pay attention, to understand everything that's happening when it's being interrupted by moments of just casual chit chat. Because the whole point is kind of the one downside of it, in a way. You're playing characters who are inherently not involved in the story.
Yeah.
And being expected, obviously, to play that role of just general party guest, but then also somehow overhearing and seeing enough to fully understand the story.
So in a way, I think we are basically playing the gossips. We go there and we pay attention to what's happening, and we try to piece things together, but we might not have the full information.
There's some merit to that potentially in of itself. To how does the story look when you from the there's like, I don't know, isn't there like a famous book that's written from the perspective of a maid or something? Pride and Prejudice.
There's versions of famous novels written by the servants or whatever.
And I'd almost compare it to that. It's kind of a new take on the story, seen from the perspective of a random guest at one of Gatsby's parties.
Yes.
And I guess go in knowing that, so I do think personally, obviously, no one can have the experience of seeing it for the first time, both knowing the story and not knowing the story. But I do think it's worth knowing the story.
I think it's worth knowing the story as well. For Gatsby, particularly. I think for King and Country, it was pretty easy to follow.
King and Country has a lot less story.
Yes.
It's much more about the experience. Gatsby kind of tried to achieve something a lot bigger in a way.
But it is also about the experience, because it's such a great night out.
Gatsby.
Like Gatsby.
Well, they both are, but yeah.
They both are, but Gatsby is very much like you are going to Jay Gatsby's party. You're gonna be in the in with the cool kids. At his party, and you're gonna see the everything crumble, as it does. The American dream is a typical thing.
I just want to quickly mention something that was mentioned by a friend of mine a while back. A company called Punch Drunk Theatre, who apparently, allegedly, this is absolute hearsay. I have no idea. Apparently do the best immersive theatre productions that there are. But I've been keeping an eye on them ever since I was told about them. They're very elusive. They seem to put on very few productions. They put on, the most recent one was in New York maybe a year or two ago. But if you're interested in immersive theatre, then Punch Drunk Theatre. I have it on good authority. They'll be well worth seeing, but they're hard to get to. So put their name in your keep their name in your head. And keep an eye out for them, but that's what I'm going to be doing, and I'll see you at their next production in London. And the other one that I thought was interesting is something called Plymouth Point, which seems to be, again, I know nothing about it, but it's been advertised to me, it seems to be a cross between an escape room and immersive theatre.
Oh.
It basically seems to be an escape experience and a puzzle experience with live actors.
Okay.
So I'd be quite interested in checking that. It's for 2 to 6 players. Or audience members. So it's like I say, it's an escape room with live actors essentially. So I don't know if it's more escape room or more theatre or a good mix of both. I'm definitely going to check it out at some point. And then we can report back. Well, if it turns out it's mostly an escape room, we probably won't review it.
Well, we can tell them.
But if it is immersive theatre, we'll give you some insight into it.
Yeah. So I would highly recommend you go to an immersive theatre show, even if you're shy. I think that's my main take from this.
Yeah.
Because you can participate as much as you like, and I bet you that you might want to participate more than you think you do, because I definitely did.
Yeah, and Deborah is quite introverted.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's shy.
Yeah, so I do think you will enjoy yourself, even if not. And if you're not an introvert like me, go for it then.
Well, that's all we have time for today on Restricted View Podcast. Hopefully that was helpful. Hope you enjoyed the tip our take on the news, our list, and our brief discussion about the joys of immersive theatre.
Yes, let us know your opinions on all these many things we talked about today on our social media, in email that's always linked on your podcast, whatever you're listening to this podcast.
Available where all good podcasts are available.
Exactly.
But yes, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time on Restricted View Podcast.
Yeah, see you next time. Bye.